Hello, everybody. It's Kim from Alternate Universe. I'm having a bit of a slow health day today, so please excuse me if I am a little scatterbrained. Um, but yes, it's Kim from art=happy, and we're here during Vlogmas to just sit and chat for about half an hour. I'm working on a little project. Feel free to join me. We're doing these on Thursdays in December from 7:15 p.m. UK time. And I am just chilling today. And I'm wearing headphones because last week our audio had some issues. So we've done Carl's done a bunch of tests, and hopefully the audio is going to sound a lot better. Please let me know if you absolutely hate it or whatever. But yeah, so what am I working on today? This was the project I didn't want to show last week. This is my Advent project. It is the AdventUrous Scarf by TLYarnCrafts, who is the Tunisian queen, may I just say. She has been on the Tunisian obsession for so long and has made so many amazing videos. If you want to try Tunisian, I highly recommend checking her channel out, or her Instagram, or her patterns. So this here is worked on a bias. So you start in this corner here with a plain color. So this was day one. And then you work some increasing on one side, decreasing on the other, and then you start striping in your next color. And I started off very adventurously. Wait. I started thinking I was going to make these huge stripes of each day, and then I realized I don't need to do that. The scarf is going to be enormously long. Her pattern is designed for like a Halloween mini, so it only had like 13 minis in it, I think. And oh, I just lost my train of thought. And our Advent come with 24 minis plus a big 100 grams on the final day. So I started making my stripes a little bit shorter. I am trying to keep them a little bit random because I have lots of different sizes of minis, because I am using all of the leftovers from making our Advent. So I have lots of bits and bobs, and we make our recycled yarn by taking coned yarn and holding multiple strands together to make the right thickness. And I look at texture, and I look at color, and I look at stretchiness, different qualities of the yarns. And then I make up the combination. So for example, the next day that I'm about to do here, which I think is day 11. So this is not a spoiler because we're on the 14th of December today. Yeah. So this one here is a sparkly yarn that's going to go next. And I kind of struggle with sparklies because I know that the stretchiness is going to be different between each of the yarns, but I don't know if you can see here, but there's 3 threads. You've got a sparkly thread here, which is a dark yarn with like bright silvers and colors in it. And then you've got a dark navy blue and a slightly lighter one. And those 3, when held together, make up the thickness of a sock yarn. It's actually, so sock yarn is kind of tricky. For those of you who don't know socks, you've got 4-ply, you've got sock yarn, and you've got sport weight. Now, sport weight is a little bit thicker, and 4-ply tends to be a little bit thinner. And in the UK, 4-ply is kind of the standard sock yarn that you get everywhere. It's the big brands, they all sell 4-ply. But my sock yarn, my recycled sock yarn, is a quote-unquote true sock yarn, so it's a little bit thicker than a 4-ply. Excuse me, I'm just going to have some water. So that's just to keep in mind, because if we did a 4-ply thickness on all of our sock yarns, you would get 1 strand, maybe 2 strands, and I found it really difficult to make nice combinations with those restraints. Because we get a lot of lace weight cones and we get a lot of 4-ply cones, which is great, but it does limit the amount of combinations I can have. So just as a warning, it is technically a tiny bit thicker. Like if you were using West Yorkshire spinners as your second color, you might notice a slight difference between the thicknesses. I'm drinking some water today, filtered water out of a recycled bottle. It's my standard go-to. I really like cute little bottles like this. This is what we give to customers at the shop as well if they ask for water. I feel like I'm going very British with my headphones on. Like I can hear my voice in my head differently. So I do apologize if my accent is a bit weird. This week has actually been really fun. I'm going to do a couple rows on this before I start talking again about other stuff. But yeah, this week has been so busy for us. Let's see, last Thursday, and then we had Friday, Saturday, Sunday in the shop. I wasn't teaching very much, thank goodness, so I could actually get some stuff done. I had 2 young girls in the shop for their little crochet lessons. They come every month or so, and they come on a Saturday, and we just do whatever they fancy doing in terms of crochet. And oh, this is so weird listening to myself in my ears. I'm going to just move my headphones back a little bit. There you go. I can hear myself better now. I felt like I was going incredibly British. Yeah. That's not on purpose. So my accent changes quite a lot depending on the people I'm with. And it's such a weird quirk. I know some of you out there, it's like a neurodivergent thing, apparently, to like mimic people that are around you. I don't do it on purpose, but it's anyway. So anyway, so we had these two girls. They're like, I think they're like 8 and 13 or something like that. And they're very different. One of them is really, really quiet. One of them is really loud and energetic. And anyway, so we had them in on Saturday, and then on Sunday, I actually spent most of the day not working. I spent most of the day hanging out with my cousins. If those of you who follow me on Instagram will know the saga, but I'll fill you in really quickly. So I have a second cousin once removed or something, but they're very dear to me. I just call them my cousins. And they've had 3 kids, one of whom is like 10, and then the other 2 are like 2 and 4. And the 2-year-old and the 4-year-old came over with their dad, and we did holiday crafts with Auntie Kim, which I feel like needs its own jingle, really. Maybe I should make like a little screen thing every time I say that, and Carl can put it up. But holiday crafts with Auntie Kim, and I was so nervous about it because I don't have any kids of my own. I don't plan to have any kids of my own, but I do love hanging out with my friends' kids and my cousins' kids and stuff like that. So I think of them all as kin. They're all my family, and yeah, for the longest time I've really wanted to create a happy, fun environment for them to come over and play with some crafts and maybe learn some new skills and just hang out and, you know, realize that like the world is diversified and different. I have pink hair, I have a partner, but we're not married and we don't have kids, and I don't know what they're exposed to in their everyday life. So I think it's fun for them to see a different way of living and just to like reaffirm that they can be whoever they want to be. And if that's a creative person, that's awesome. And I will, you know, help them, you know, play with whatever they want to play with. So we did a couple of different crafts. I actually bought a bunch of easy peeler oranges and scooped out the insides and dried them so that they were like little tops of mushrooms, and I was going to paint them and make ornaments, but it was actually a bit chaotic that day, and I thought giving them open paint and paintbrushes was just going to be too much. So we ended up doing slightly different crafts. So we did a smooshing craft where you put loads of paint onto paper. You can use like poster paint or acrylic paint or whatever, and then you slide that piece of paper into a plastic bag, zip up the plastic bag, and let them just smoosh and paint and squiggle. And we put glitter in it, and it was very fun for little 2-year-old hands and 4-year-old short attention spans. It was really good because they were always like, I want to try another color, I want to try another color. So that worked really well. And then we had a little run around, and then we did a craft where I had prepped a bunch of little cardstock cards that had different shapes in them with hole punches, and I gave them a really blunt big plastic sewing up needle and some yarn, and they were sewing up the different shapes. So there was like a little Christmas tree shape and a star and a snowflake, and that was really fun. And I think you know, they ended up going home with something that's like, you know, relatively useful, like they can write in there and send it off to their grandparents or whatever. So that was really nice. It was a success. It was a bit chaotic. Nobody had a tantrum, which was great. So yeah, thank you so much for everyone who commented on my Instagram stories and gave me that vote of confidence, because I was so nervous. I know for me as a kid, any chance I got to do any kind of art project or craft project or to make something with an adult or just be left alone with art supplies was a huge deal for me. Some of my favorite memories are when I was like 10 to 13 years old. We went on, we had our summer holidays up in Gasky, which is a very small little town near the Oregon border in California. And as a kid, you know, there's not a lot to do there except run around the forest, ride bikes, um, play in sprinklers, and, you know, the river if you've got people watching you and stuff, and then, you know, crafts. So one of my favorite things was I had this wonderful, I call her my fairy godmother, and she had these amazing watercolor pencils that she would let me draw with. And she had them in this little mug on her desk, and the ceramic mug had little legs on it. I remember it so clearly. And she had a pin board full of funny little postcards and mail that her pen pals used to write to her. And I remember just being allowed to sit with these really nice art supplies and paper and just play and just do whatever I wanted. And that, you know, I mean, it stuck with me today. So I want to be that cool aunt. And so I'm trying to bring the cool aunt vibes. If you guys have any suggestions for like cool craft tutorials for that kind of age, you know, they were really excited and they want to come back next year. So there'll be 3 and 5 next year. And maybe possibly we can get the older one involved too. Who'll be about 11 next year, I think. So if you've got any suggestions, please let me know. Otherwise, yeah, it was a roaring success. So that was my weekend, and then the week has been incredibly busy. So Monday we had a little tester Pathfinder session with our friends. So Carl and I play D&D with some people, and we've been playing with them pretty much every week for about, 5.5 years now. Yeah, Carl's nodding. And we have decided to start to move away from the Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition because, one, we've kind of played loads of the classes and a lot of us are a little bored with it. But also, the Wizards of the Coast have done some not great things recently, including kind of like being really harsh with their copyright laws, which means a lot of creatives have had to basically pull back what they've been doing. Otherwise, if they make content with the Wizards of the Coast D&D stuff, the Wizards of the Coast owns it. Is that correct, Carl?
That's the general gist of it.
It's the general gist. You can look more, what's it called? There's a
Open Game License, or OGL. They have made some addendums to it.
Yeah, so
but just the sheer fact of what they were doing in the first place.
So let me just reiterate that so you can actually hear it. So it's the OGL, Open Game License. If you want to do some more research on it, feel free to look that up. And as Carl was mentioning there, they've made some addendums to it, so they've tried to make it a little bit better, but it's still quite a big disappointment. So we've been moving over to different game systems just to give ourselves a little bit more freedom. And the one that we've decided to go with on our Tuesday night game is Pathfinder 2nd edition. So it's very crunchy, as they say. And for those of you who've never heard the word crunchy before, basically it's more rules based, and there's lots more little bits and bobs that you can look up. And, you know, I mean, there's rules for everything. If you, in combat, for example, in Dungeons and Dragons, if you wanted to, like, talking was a free action, you could always just do that. Whereas in Pathfinder, to be able to point something out to the rest of your party during combat, you have to take an action to do that. So it's more, yeah, crunchy. I don't know another adjective to replace crunchy with. It's just so good. But so we did a little test of that on Monday, and then we continued to do more testing of that yesterday night, which was fun. But I'm quite exhausted. And then on Tuesday night, I also had the pleasure of going to a pub in East Bristol to play a horror game. So this is, again, it's a different system. It's not D&D, but it's similar. And it's based in the Appalachian Mountains in like the turn of the 20th century. It's based on the podcast Old Gods of Appalachia, which if you haven't listened to it and you like spooky things, I can highly recommend it. It was recommended to me by Jake, who came and did a sock knitting lesson with me, and we realized we have so much in common in the way of podcasts. So he gave me like a huge list of recommendations, and now I'm like absolutely, I'm loving it all. So Jake ran a game for us on Tuesday, and I made a character, and it was totally different to the D&D that I've been playing, and I really enjoyed it. Really, really loved it. So yeah, so that's my news. We also have no sofa right now, which is quite exciting. We got our old sofa taken away today, and our new sofa should be coming tomorrow. We've been waiting for this new sofa for months now. I'm so excited. It's going to be so good. Our old sofa was giving us a lot of posture, back issues, and stuff like that. We've had it since lockdown, the first lockdown, and Carl basically sat in it like, I don't know, 15 hours a day, something like that. So his seat was like an absolute bucket. The spring had broken. It was a bit of a nightmare. So this one actually has back support. It reclines. It's a beautiful color. I'm really looking forward to it. And what else? I think that's about it. In the shop, it's just crazy. December, getting ready for the holidays kind of vibes. We've had lots of people coming in looking for presents and gifts and projects that they can do really quickly to give to those maybe not so knit-worthy family members, but you know, they still want a quick, easy gift. So that's been quite fun. I have not had a chance to do a whole heck of a lot. I have made a couple more stars, including this little guy, which is so cute. Again, I did Tunisian again. I think I prefer it to the knitted ones. It just gives it a bit more structure. So this little guy is day, oh gosh, I don't even know. It's just after the white bear. It was like day 7 or something like that. Yes, Carl.
We have a comment from Nick saying, the telltale butt print of the wild Carl.
Yes, absolutely. The wild Carl did leave a massive butt print. It's fantastic. Thank you for that, Nick. You always make me giggle. Woo. So I haven't done a great deal of knitting or crochet. I did that little star, as you saw, and then I've done a couple of rows on this crocheted top, and I realized that I didn't do a swatch for it when I started. So it's way bigger than it's supposed to be because I'm using a different hook size. I just used my normal hook size that I use for double knit. Big mistake, Kim. Didn't read the pattern properly. So I'm doing the smallest size, but it's almost as big as a big Kim size. So I'm just going with it. I'm going to continue making the smaller size, and whatever size it ends up being, because at the end of the day, it's just a sample for the shop. So it's all good. But yeah, I added a couple more stripes onto both of those. Not done a heck of a lot on that, but that's all right. That's what it's there for. It's there for just, you know, being there when I've got customers and I can chat to them and just do something. What have I got in here? This is, I don't think I have any other more made up stars in here. No. Okay. I do have this little bag, which I've been dipping in and out of, which is scrubbies. So I've been kind of obsessed with these cotton scrubbies for a very long time now. It's a very simple pattern. It's a puff stitch, and I'm just using any double knit cotton or plant-based yarns, and I'm making lots of different color combinations. So I obviously, as you can see here, am absolutely obsessed. And I'm just using whatever we've got lying around in terms of colors. I'm trying to make them in like sets of 3 so that I can either give them away or sell them for last minute gifts. But that's what that little guy is. I've done a little bit on that this week, not very much. And then obviously I've been working on my AdventUrous Scarf. Again, we haven't really had a lot of evenings. I've been resting during the day, and then during the evenings I've been out doing stuff with buddies, and then when I come home I just want to go to sleep. So I haven't actually had a lot of time. So I'm really excited about this. I did want to talk about a book that I'm reading at the moment. It's this one here. It's called Fanny and Stella by Mckenna. I can't remember if I talked about this before or not on YouTube, but I think I talked about it in a vlog at some point, so you may see that again later on at some point. But this is a story about trans folks in Victorian England. So Franny and Stella, it's unclear. So the first thing you have to know about Franny and Stella is that being a gay man was illegal. And if you were caught in the act or suspected of it, you could be hanged. And that's really rubbish. There weren't the same laws for women, but they didn't really think that women did that kind of stuff, because why would they, right? So these two assigned male at birth humans love to dress up in women's clothing and act like women and go out on the town as women. But they also like to dress up as boys. And as you can see here, you know, they wore both types of clothing. And this book really explores that idea of there were people fitting into all these different categories that we have today, but they didn't have a word for it. So whether or not Franny and Stella would have considered themselves trans, or just gay men, or men in drag, or women, or, you know, we don't know what they would have identified as, because those words didn't exist back then for them. What we do have is a term called Molly Boy, which was used derogatorily. Jesus Christ. Derogatively, but it was also used by the people that were called Molly Boys to identify themselves amongst each other. So a lot of them tended to gravitate towards acting and those types of things. And this book is incredible because it shows their life both as their like assigned at birth selves and their childhood and things like that, but it also shows them as they were when they were young and living on their own in London and exploring all these different aspects of life. And it's actually fantastic how many AMAB, I always get that wrong, yes, assigned male at birth, AMAB people there were living in London, who didn't necessarily like gender roles and gender norms. And it's fantastic. And they all express their gender in completely different ways. And it's just such a wonderful book. And it starts off, this guy, Neil McKenna, starts off with their trial, because that's what they're famous for. They got caught wearing women's dresses and then found out to be men, and the cops were really horrible to them. And it starts off with the big trial, the big scandal, and then he researches into their lives and finds out so much more about them. And it's done in a really respectful way. It's really, really good. So I highly recommend it. I'll show you the cover one more time. Franny and Stella by Neil McKenna. And it's just wonderful. It's just great. So they've been keeping me company, and I've been working my AdventUrous Scarf. We're nearly coming to our end of our half an hour. So I'm just going to sit here for a little bit and finish this off with you. I hope you've enjoyed today. It's not been a lot of show and tell in terms of yarn. Oh, you may notice that the background has changed slightly. That is because I spent some time rearranging this wall behind me. We had a little bit of hand-dyed stuff left on the wall that really there wasn't enough of it to be you know, in its own section. So I've moved it to some other area where it can shine in its own right. And I've popped up all this super chunky stuff because 'tis the season for the super chunks. And above me, we've got these tiny little balls as well, which I don't think you can see on camera, but they're 100-gram balls of a mix of sari and wool, sari silk and wool. So yeah, so I'm really happy with how the wool came out. Uh, I think we might be getting some more colours in before the end of December, although I am a little bit worried about them getting here on time. But it stays cold in England for quite a while after December, so we should still be good no matter when they come in. I hope you have had a good week. I hope you're enjoying all of the different Vlogmases out there. I have been really enjoying watching them every now and again when I get a chance. I haven't been keeping up with everyone just because it's so dang busy. But yeah, I hope you're doing well. Leave me a comment, let me know how you're doing, if you've read any good books or anything. And if you do want a bit of discussion, don't forget that you can join our Discord server, which I put the link into the description of this video. Once it's been processed by YouTube and it goes live on the channel instead of just live. So yeah, feel free to join our Discord. There's lots of lovely people there to say hello to and chat with and share all your projects and your goodies. Yes, this weekend we're having a Christmas party in the shop. It's non-denominational, so it's not really Christmas. It's just a festive party, just an excuse to get together and eat vegan cheese and biscuits. So yeah, hopefully I'll see some of you there. Otherwise, have a good week, and I will see you next week. Bye!